Hey, what's up? You're probably wondering why it's just me this time. Well, Bimler and I had a bit of a chat about this channel not too long ago. We've made over 10 episodes by the time you'll be seeing this, and it's honestly been a blast. It's basically a passion project between both of us, and I've been having a great time just talking about music. Never really done anything like it before. So, we both want to do more. Have more variety in this lovely content of ours by doing more than just the podcast. You know, keep you on your toes, because you don't know what we're fucking capable of. We are pretty much God's made flesh. By the time you'll see this video, we will have released 11 episodes total, which is pretty exciting. And I've personally wanted to go back at some of the early videos we've made and either elaborate on things I've said, or opinions I've had, or even just walk back on things I previously believed, and I know Bimler feels a similar way. And we both also wanted to put the previous albums against each other in some way, or rate them to see which ones are better. So today, I'm going to be ranking the first 10, count them 10, not 11, albums that we have covered on the channel so far. I'll be talking about each of them to some extent, and seeing how they still hold up in my eyes in order of the videos. I still got things to say about some of them, and, well, perhaps more, but you'll see. And Bimler will also be doing the same thing in his own little video, so go check that out if you haven't already. Enough wasting time. My voice is fucking gospel, and you're gonna listen to me yap about music for a little bit. Oh my god, Smile. Man, it feels like it's been forever since we talked about this one, but it's only been like 2 months? You know, fun fact that we might have mentioned before, while this was our first official episode, it wasn't actually the first album we listened to for this show. We did around 3 albums before this. They were Nobody's Listening, Twin Fantasy, and Marching in Time. All spectacular albums that I highly recommend, and I hope we end up actually talking about in the show again at some point, because they're really, really good. Good. I meant to say good. That's what I meant to. Fuck you. But enough of that. How does Smile hold up today? Well, pretty great in my opinion. Admittedly, I haven't done too many full listens of the album since we did the episode, but that's for a lot of reasons, including having to listen to other albums as part of my music box homework. And that's kind of how I handle most Porter Robinson music anyway. That's how I handle the World's album when I listen to it. These days, I usually just end up peeping Cheerleader or Russian Roulette if the mood strikes me, and not really much more than that. They're by far, in conjunction, the best songs on the entire album, and blow pretty much everything else out of the water for me. Which I also believe I said in the video, so that hasn't changed. That's not to say I don't care for any of the other tracks on the record, but with my ADD, sometimes I just want the quick euphoria that listening to Cheerleader and Russian Roulette provides to me. A bit shallow of an opinion, admittedly, but I still stand by most of my other opinions I expressed in that video, so I feel there's a little to add. Still, very enjoyable all the way through. I'd put Smile at number 6 on my ranking. It's quite good and beats out some of the other tracks, but I think only having 2 tracks that I really fuck with keeps it below the halfway point. Anyway, next album. Tremonti. Yeah, this album is still fucking great. I've since peeped more of the Tremonti catalog, and I think it's pretty solidly sharing a first place spot with Marching in Time for them. I maintain that I think the highs of the end will show us how are higher than that of Marching in Time, with Nails, It's Not Over, and the title track just being a godly trio together. But Marching in Time just has more consistent quality overall. That being said, this album slaps, I maintain most of my opinions, and I've only grown to love it more since we made the episode. Tremonti kicks ass, it's going in rank 3, only 2 albums beat it out in my opinion, one of which is the next album, and that really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Let's just go ahead and... there we go. You know, I could probably just move on to the next album now, but I guess I can explain this. Really twist my arm about it. So here's the thing, the new sound was kind of a game changer for me when it came to music. Before I listened to this record, I had no idea that an album could resonate, nay, howl to me so fucking hard. As much as I love everything we've reviewed on the show so far, literally nothing has even come close to the new sound in terms of my enjoyment with it. It's just that good. The instrumentation is superb, the whack-ass jazz it does drifting in and out of cohesion. It feels like an analog for how my fucking brain works, dude. Like, no identity is ever firmly in place as thoughts and feelings all vie for control and battling against one another. The lyrics fucking ache. They are some of the best I've ever heard. And shit like blues and As If Waltz caused me to start shriveling up and die. Jordy Griep is a goddamn artist, and his vocal performances, it's just one of the most genuine, heart-wrenching, and altogether human things I've ever heard. And the themes, the goddamn themes of this album. Yes, I am also insecure. I also want everyone to view me as perfect and great at everything like a living god, but I also want to be cradled and held and just to feel like I don't have to be anything for anyone for once. I want to feel like the people around me care as much as I do. I want to not feel like I'm the only one doing anything in a relationship. I just don't want to be alone. I don't want to be... Whoa, Pyrine. Dial it back a tad. My point is that it hurts. Fucking hurts, bro. Men will die when they listen to The Magician. I could probably do an entire video essay dissecting why exactly I adore this album, but I do want to move on to other albums for now, so I'll hold back. My mercy knows no bounds. There's really only one album I have listened to since then that compares to the new sound, and I'm going to keep it a secret from now. Maybe we'll talk about it on the show at some point in the future. But with that out of the way, next album. The Ascension. Honestly, not a whole lot to say on this one. My opinions remain the same as they were in the video. It is a gorgeous and incredibly unique long play that does not rush anything and slowly immerses you into its beautiful, enlightening, and enrapturing world that Sufjan Stevens creates. It's just awesome. I do feel, however, as if I was a bit too harsh to Death Star and Goodbye to All That. I have gotten somewhat more used to the awful noise in them, though it's still pretty fucking bad, and I wish it didn't exist. Not Gilgamesh, though. God, not Gilgamesh. That shit is only fixable if it's removed. The big problem I have with this album is the fact that it has something I actively hate. It's not as if there are musical decisions made that I'm not the biggest fan of. I fucking hate that noise, and it drives me nuts. It just really ruins those songs for me. Bad things stick with you much more than good things do, truth be told, and I'm sorry to anyone with sensitive hearing that listened to those songs. It's such a fucking shame for me, because if it wasn't for that single solitary issue, this album would be a second place for me, but I just can't get over it. I must put it in fourth place. But it is an experience, and if that experience didn't try to give you tinnitus 2/3 of the way through, I'd pretty much recommend it to everyone. Think that's all I wanted to say. Alright, on to the next album. Wait a second. Lift your skinny fist like antennas to heaven. This was one of my favorite episodes we've done so far. Recording this was such a fucking blast. I adore Jordan. She's just one of my favorite people ever. And I hope we bring her on the show again. But what about the album? Well, it's a bit hard to say. Frankly, I consider Antennas to be almost in a different category of music than anything else we've reviewed on the show before and after. It's 4 tracks, each is around 20 minutes in length, and it's pretty much just entirely instrumentation and orchestration. Like I said in the video, it's basically a modern-day symphony that I could see myself buying tickets for and listening to in an auditorium. It's just an entirely different experience than what I usually listen to. I'm not entirely sure it's even properly comparable to the other albums. All of this is kind of an explanation for why it's not going to be very high on my tier list. I'm sorry, Jordan, but in comparison to almost everything else we've reviewed, it just doesn't make the cut for me. Antennas is a very long album with plenty of build and release composition, like climbing a hill just to slowly roll down it, which is very nice and impressive, but it doesn't really hold much of a candle to its composition to shit like The Ascension, Kid A, and even Smile for me. They get to the point faster and explore more ideas, while Antennas is more like a cinematic build-up towards a grand central theme. It's probably just my personal preference, but I prefer a lot of small ideas building an overall picture, as it gives a lot of room for both interpretation and makes it easier for me to connect with. If you don't fuck with the central concept of Antennas, you're just screwed. You most likely won't enjoy the album. But in something like, I don't know, The New Sound, you have concepts of ego, self-hatred, perfectionism, God complexes, intimacy, poor relationships, desire, identity, etc. Even if you don't fuck with all of those ideas, there's bound to be something you will like. Granted, Antennas is more than just Be an Anarchist, the album, but that really is the meat of it. I'm an environmentalist and a human rights activist. I'm not really someone who wants to loot my local Trader Joe's when the rapture starts. I'm gonna put Antennas at number 9. I still think it's a great album, but it is one of the weakest on the list. But it makes you think, what's gonna go beneath that? Surely it won't be the next album. The Bends. Oh no. Yeah, here's the thing. While Bimler is slowly infecting my brain with Radiohead as time goes on, I still have enough state of mind to recognize that The Bends is just the weakest album on this ranking, in my opinion. That's not really its fault, though. The Bends, I believe, was the second album Radiohead released after Pablo Honey, which I still haven't listened to. It came out in the 90s when the band was still finding its voice in the music space, and while it was pretty popular, I just don't think it's trumped anything on this list. Compared to everything else, the ideas are less interesting, the music is more generic, and the production really isn't anything stand out for the time. I'd say the album's strongest attributes are, of course, going to be its lyrics and its vocals, which, of course, are going to be pretty solid because it's Tom York, and we pray to Tom York. I have a shrine to Tom York. It's in my room. I've at least sacrificed a goat to Tom York because, you know, praise be to Tom York. Praise be. This bit is terrible. I am so sorry. I hope I cut this out. Radiohead has mostly gotten better with every new album I've gotten to peep, and that's how I like it. If The Bends has to be a stepping stone to things greater, then it was a worthy stepping stone in my eyes. Still, I do like The Bends. Even at the bottom of this list, I would still recommend it. It's just a B-tier album compared to everything else, which I think is at least an A-tier. Not much more to say. Time for the next album. Teens of Denial. I got some things to say here. This is what I feel like I have to do some explaining for, because I did a bit of blaspheming against the car seat headrest community in this episode. I want to start by saying that I do like car seat headrest. From what I've heard, they have a pretty solid discography that, while admittedly took a bit of time to grow on me, I've come to really appreciate. When I first hit up Twin Fantasy with Bimler, I admit I wasn't really that impressed. It felt kinda whiny, some of the tracks seemed a bit generic, there were a fair few corny lines that I didn't really care for. I considered it a high C, low B tier album at the time. That being said, before you lynch me, my opinion of Car Seat Headrest is a lot better now. As time passed and I began to listen closer, I came to understand what the band was really about, and I actually did start to really enjoy the tracks. You see, Car Seat Headrest songs are something that I consider to be what I'm going to call soul music. The composition has, at least to me, a bit of intentional crust on it. Instruments can either be out of tune or hit the wrong notes, lyrics can be sung out of whack, it's unrefined to an extent. To me, that's not a problem. Mostly because it feels more genuine and from the soul. Like, this is a garage band in 2006 of closeted dudes who can only express themselves through their above-average musical skills, and this ends up being the result. It's got a lot of charm because of that, and while it means I'm mostly not going to be grabbed by the songs musically, they just beam vibes into your brain, and almost every time a vivid picture forms in my head, which I enjoy. Teens of Denial is just the epitome of this for me, and is my favorite Car Seat Headrest album I've heard so far. It just feels honest. The entire album doesn't just represent what it's like to grow up in a bad crowd and fall into a downward spiral into your adulthood. It screams to me both the struggles of growing up as specifically a gay male and dealing with the issues of masculinity, religious stigma, the struggle to find identity, and learning how to become a better person despite all that hardship. And if you've watched the show, you can probably guess that both me and Bimler fuck with those themes hard, though he ain't gay. Much to his loss, I might add. And truth be told, the fucking album cover for Teens of Denial might be one of my favorites ever. I feel like this does more to represent the album than any words possibly can. And you either get it, or you don't. That's all there is to say. There was also something else that I said that I want to quickly go over, and that was my opinion on Will Toledo as a vocalist. Before I say anything else, I want to strongly emphasize that this is all my opinion. Will basically encapsulates my biggest gripe about Car Seat Headrest as a whole. He, and by extension the entire composition, has times where he works, and times where he doesn't. God's Greatest Twink has a very raw and emotional performance. He is so genuine, and he puts his whole heart into the music. And when he works, he makes everything so much better, and just elevates it to heights that leave me speechless. But he isn't really that melodic, and same can go for the music at times, and considering that, in the end, this is still music, I do want to enjoy listening to the tracks. That's just me though. If you disagree entirely, then that's completely fair. I still enjoy him in the music for the most part. Teens of Denial is gonna go at rank 7. It's great, I adore it, but I don't think I'd pick it over anything above it unless I was really in the mood for teen angst. Next album. Okay, Computer. I admittedly do not have much to say about this album in regards to my opinion. I think I stand by everything I said in the episode. It's a great album with some really standout tracks, but there's also others that just don't really do it for me. And Tom York with his vocals just continue to be great. I guess I could just give it the ranking and move on, but I'll say one quick thing before I do. One thing that I don't care about and will never care about when it comes to my enjoyment of music is popularity. I do not care for how famous or well received a song is. I would rather form my own opinions about it. I don't think that's a very controversial take, but it's one I figured I should say for this album because it's by far the most well-known out of any we've discussed so far. No Surprises has almost 1 billion plays on Spotify. Many consider this album to be one of the best things to hit music since sliced bread. I just disagree. I think it's great, but it doesn't blow my dick off. That could just be my case though, maybe you hard disagree. Just to be frank, I do not see what makes this one of the best albums ever made. Maybe it has something to do with its composition being solid, or Radiohead giving this album a lot of appeal, but I'm not really sure. All I can really give it is that this album is in no uncertain terms completely timeless, so maybe that elevates it, but again, I can't really say for sure. While this album is awesome and I do love it, I become much more critical of something once it starts rising to the heights of best ever. As for the ranking, it's gonna be an 8. Not the highest, but I think 8 is respectable given that I'm not slobbering over it too hard. On to the next album. Ants from Up There. Oh boy, this one. You know, out of all the episodes we've done so far, this is the one I think I have the biggest regrets on. I think I was way too harsh on this album, and time has mellowed my opinion of the entire thing. If you'd like an excuse for my thoughts during the episode, I admit that I wasn't in the best mood that day and was a little tired. I want to take the time now to try and shore up some of the damage and state my more developed opinion. Firstly, I want to say that I think I was too harsh on Bread's song. I don't really think it's that pretentious anymore, and that realization came to me slowly over time. This album is incredible in the most insidious way possible. You can listen to it for the first time around and think, this album is pretty alright, I like this. Then have your mind slowly peeled apart as you re-listen to this album again and again and start to see what it's doing. Or at least that's what happened to me. It's an album that takes time to grow on you, admittedly, but it does grow. While I still can't say I'm crazy about Bread's song, I do think it has a lot of merit and great substance to pick at if you look deeper. And that's been a theme for many of these albums so far, honestly. If you will allow me a moment of speculation about my co-host's taste in music, I think Bimler is inclined towards albums that require further listens and analysis to fully enjoy. I know he's gonna have A Foot high on his list, if not at the top, and I really can't blame him for that. This album is much more Bim-coated with its themes, and he listens to music way differently than me. If I had to guess, I'd say he just listens to music much more frequently, and would have a lot more time to dissect the tracks passively and appreciate what it does. That style of digesting music has started to rub off on me a little bit, but I don't mind if music really is more face value. Not to say he wouldn't either, it's just an inclination of his I've noticed. Another thing I wanted to address in particular was my comment about Isaac Wood. I said that I held an opinion about Isaac Wood's vocal performance in a similar vein to Will Toledo, that he sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, and that there were times where I wish he would have just had someone else do the vocals instead of him. And pretty much every single person I've mentioned this to has given me grief for it, which I understand, and I don't think I'd want anyone else performing for this album now. He is the only one who can do it in my eyes. Like, I literally cannot imagine this album without Isaac. His performance is one of a kind. I can't even properly describe it. There's just this edge of desperation to his voice that comes to the front. It makes the entire album just kind of fucked up, in a good way. It's a very personal performance, like he's having a conversation with you. My issue only arose from the fact that he kind of sticks out compared to the instrumentation and the chorus sometimes. During some moments, that's the point. He has to be separate if you want to actually absorb what he's saying and not have it be drowned out. But the instrumentation for this album is beautiful, and there are moments where I wish he could harmonize better with it. I like my harmony, it makes my brain smile. Still, his performance has endless charm. I apologize for my slander, Isaac. I hope your future career now that you're out of the band goes well. The one thing I haven't really changed my opinion on is Basketball Shoes. I think I was too harsh on it, and it's not as pretentious as I made it out to be, but I can't really say I still care for it. Its length and the fact it drags just makes it a skipper for me. Ants from Up There is going to be my rank 2. It's so close to being a howler for me like the new sound, but it just doesn't make that connection with my heart, and I have enough minor gripes to keep it firmly out of this position. It still deserves the spot though. Go listen to the album. And now for the last album on this ranking, but certainly not the least. Kid A. Alright, I'm putting my cards on the table for this one. Kid A is my favorite Radiohead album we've done so far. It has the most interesting composition, with 3 fantastic songs as the opener. It's experimental, and weird instrumentation really elevates it to be much more distinct for me, and it just works super well in distilling a completely baller vibe. And, of course, Yorkie Poo. How to Disappear Completely is just unmatched. It's my favorite Radiohead song yet, and it's gonna take a real wild song to beat it. The entire album is just super distinct. Each track has its own voice that builds towards a greater picture, and I honestly enjoy the themes that it has that play a lot more than OK Computer. So yeah, I don't really think any of my opinions have changed. I love Kid A, and I'm interested if any of the later Radiohead albums are gonna beat it like Bimler seems to think. I hope so. Slotting this one into our final place at rank 5, you have done the impossible, Radiohead. You have made it above Porter Robinson in my enjoyment. And that's the ranking. All of the first 10 songs stacked against each other. We've started out the show with an incredibly solid catalog, as I think every track on this list is a certified banger in some way, and highly recommend you check them out if you haven't, especially if you find your opinions aligning with mine. This video is fun to make, and we're hoping to do more stuff like it in the future, especially if it does well. Engagement lets us know that we're making the right stuff, so please let us know what you think of our list and these kind of videos in general, because it really helps. And like I said at the beginning, Bim has his own version of this ranking in his own video, so please go check that out and give him some love. That's all from your local, whatever the hell I am, cat, bird thing, from your local Pyrine. Yeah, that sounds right. I'll see you guys around.